Greetings, and in this short video presentation we're going to see how we go about using Sparta to enumerate potential targets on our network. For this lab I'll be running Kali, Metasploitable 2, and an install of Windows XP. Metasploitable 2 and Windows XP will be the targets. The first thing we want to do is locate our network range. So I've typed in ifconfig at the terminal. I'm going to hit enter. And it pops back up and tells me that my Ethernet 0 is operating on 192.168.145. Now, those first three octets are the network portion of my IP. The last octet is the host IP assigned to this machine. So what we're concerned with is the network portion, 192.168.145, because this is the network we're going to be scanning with Sparta. This is my network range. Yours will probably differ. So make sure that you do not confuse the two. Once we've established the network portion of our IP address, we can go to Applications, we can go to Information Gathering, and we can scroll on down to Sparta. We got this error message here, so we're going to need to install or update Sparta. We're going to do that using the app-get install Sparta command. We're going to go ahead and hit enter, and it's going to ask us if we want to continue. We're going to say yes, and this can take just a few minutes, so give it time and be patient. Sparta has completed its install, and that was about 40 minutes of being patient, but that's the nature of Linux. We can't get away from it. Anything we need, anything we want, has to be downloaded and installed. We're now ready to run Sparta one more time. So we're going to go up to Applications, and we're going to go to Information Gathering, and we're going to go on down to Sparta. That opens up the command prompt. Now we have to leave the command prompt open, and Sparta's text or its GUI is now going to open for us, but leave the CLI open, so in case you want to see what's actually going on in the background, you can bring up that terminal and you can actually see what Sparta is doing. We'll begin by doing a quick overview of the tabs and the features of Sparta, and we begin by going up to File and clicking on File. And you see that we have a typical file context menu of New, Open, Save, Save As, Add Host to a Scope, Import Nmap. So these are a couple of features that you don't normally see in a context menu, but you see that we can add host to a scope, and we can import Nmap, and we also have exit. Don't worry about the help, that doesn't work, but if you want to know something more about Sparta, you can go online and there's plenty of documentation that will answer any of your questions. So under the Scan tab, we have a number of additional tabs that we can look around. Host, that is for adding host or an IP range to the scope. Services, shows or discovers services for your target. And Tools, shows output for each of the tools as the scan runs. The Brute tab allows you to perform brute force password attacks against the different services you have discovered. Give it the host IP, port to use, the service to attack, and configure the other options. There are also different configurations you can use for the username and passwords. You can manually give it a username and password that you already know, give it a username and password list to use, or let it use any accounts it knows about from running the tools. You can also do a combination. So for example, if you know a username, you can specify it. Then let it use a password list to attack that one account. It uses Hydra for this functionality, and you can look at the Sparta config file to see how it's set up. Before we launch our first scope and begin our first enumeration of our potential victims, we're going to go ahead and open up the Sparta config file and make some changes. Because once we actually start to scan, it's going to launch all the tools, and that becomes a little overwhelming. So we can go into the Sparta config file, and we can tell it which tools we want to use and which ones we don't. So we've closed out Sparta, and back at our terminal, we're going to type in the following, or as I did, copy and paste it from the lab, Nano, which is just a text editor, space, the path to the file we want to edit or open up inside of Nano, and that is the Sparta.config. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and this opens up the Sparta.config up inside of our Nano editor. We're going to begin by finding the enable scheduler comment, and we're going to change that to false. So we're just going to use our up arrows and down arrows to get over to this line inside of the config file, and I'm just going to arrow on over, and I'm going to back off to true. I'm going to type in false. Once I'm done editing this Sparta.config file, I can do a Control X, and it's going to ask me if I want to save the changes, and I'm going to say yes by typing in Y, and then I'm going to hit enter. That closes out the editor. I've closed out that terminal, and again I'm going to go to applications, and I'm going to go down to information gathering, and I'm going to launch Sparta one more time. We're now ready to conduct our first scan of our network, and so I'm going to go to the host tab. I'm just going to click in the middle here, and that brings up the add host dialog box, and I'm going to type in my IP range. We will leave the defaults checked, and then we're going to click on the add scope button, and the scan is now in progress. As services are discovered on our potential targets, they will appear up here inside of the Services tab. You'll know when the scan is complete by looking under the status column. Right now it says running. When the status is complete, it will say completed. Again, you have to be patient with these tools, and by the time Nmap reaches stage 2, you'll start seeing the results pop up underneath the host tab. You'll also see the services popping up underneath the Services tab. You'll also see that stage 1 has completed, and we have a status of finished. So as Sparta goes through the scanning process and it's able to identify the operating system on those targets, it will change the icons that are available underneath the OS. Now the machine that we're interested in is my Linux Metasploitable 2 machine, because this is the machine that's going to have the greatest number of vulnerability. So now I'm going to click on the 128 host, and we'll see that we have this large number of vulnerabilities that we're going to be able to attack. And this is all present onto that Metasploitable 2 Linux machine. So you can see that as a pen tester or as a hacker, this tool Sparta can be very useful in discovery. And we can now begin the enumeration process. And we can do this by going up and finding port 80. Now port 80 tells us that there is an Apache web server running on that Linux server. And if we right click on the port 80, we can go up and we can select to run Nicto. I'm going to run Nicto. Now watch what happens. A new tab pops up, and we can now click on that, and we can get some information or more information about what's actually going on with this web server. So we find the target IP address, the host name, the target port. We find out the version of Apache. Now this is enumerating this machine so that we can find exploits. We want to know as much about this machine as we possibly can find out, so we can figure out how we're going to exploit it to its full potential. We can go back over to the services. We can right click on port 80 again, and this time we can say grab the banner. Now on a lot of machines that are running web servers, we can get a lot of information about that banner page. We'll go ahead and do that. Now we may or may not get the information we seek. This doesn't always work, but for the most part it can be helpful. And here we get an unknown, so don't be surprised if it doesn't work. There's a lot of other things that we can do in here underneath the ports column. We can go to Telnet. We can right click and we can say open up with Telnet. And there you go. We open it up. There's my Metasploitable, and it wants me to go ahead and log in. So there's a lot of different things that we can do here with this tool Sparta. If you want to use FTP or SMTP and exploit that, you have the option just by right clicking on the port, and it'll tell you exactly what you can do and what you can't do. So don't be worried about what happens if you click on something. It's either going to work or it's not. So if you right click on a port and you tell it to open it up, then it's either going to work or it's not. If it works, great. If it doesn't, well, then that exploit doesn't work on this particular version of the operating system and or this version of Sparta. So what we can do now is we can actually go over here to port 21, which is FTP. We can right click on that, and we can say send to brute. When we tell Sparta to send something to brute, we have to open up the brute tab. I'm going to change the root username to anonymous, and we're going to provide a password list. And to do this, we're going to click on the Browse button. Underneath the Files selection, we're going to go to Sparta here, go up inside of that directory. Then we're going to go up into the word list directory, and here we're going to choose a word list. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and use the FTP-default-user password text. I'm going to go ahead and just double click that. When everything is in place, we're going to go ahead and just click on the Run button. We have the results from our password attack on this Linux box using FTP. We find out that the login is anonymous and the password also is anonymous. That was a very simple attack on how to crack a password. If that password had been a lot more complicated, it wouldn't have been that easy. To see these results, we can also use the Scan tab. You can go to Scan, and now we can go to Tools, and underneath Tools we can find Hydra. If we click on Hydra over here in the right window pane, we can also see the results of that scan. We can save the results of this Sparta scan by going up to File and doing a Save As. And now I can go and I can save this anywhere I want to. I'm going to go ahead and save it to my desktop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder up here. I'm just going to call this particular directory that we're saving the information to Sparta. And I'll now click on the Save button. And my information will be saved once I type in a file name. So I'm just going to call this Sparta Metasploitable. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the Save button. And that information has now been saved into my Sparta folder. Later on, if I decide that I want to review and or continue on with the scan process for Metasploitable, I can go to File, I can go to Open, I can find the saved file, just double click it, and I'm back right where I left off. I'm going to go ahead and close out Sparta, close out the command prompt, brings me back to my desktop, and now we're going to see how we go about adding additional tools up inside of Sparta. Once again, we're going to launch a terminal, and this time we're going to again edit the Sparta.config file using the Nano editor. So I've copied and pasted this command from my lab. I'm going to hit enter, and there's the file. To navigate up and down and across in Nano, we're going to use our up and down and across arrows. So I need to get down to the tools section, so I'm going to go ahead and just start tabbing on down with my arrow key until I come to the tools section. And there's the tools section. So now we're going to add another tool to our arsenal of tools that we have already available for us up inside of Sparta. I'm going to go down to the last line underneath the tool settings, and here I'm going to take my mouse and I'm going to copy that last line, and where my cursor is, I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste. I'm now going to hit enter one time. I'm now going to use my up arrow and I'm going to go up to where it says text editor, and I'm going to replace that with the word xprobe 2. We know what tool it is. Now I have to tell the Sparta.config file where the tool is located, and it's located in the same directory as the rest of the tools, up inside of the bin folder. So again, I'm going to replace that tool name with the word xprobe 2. We can add just about any tool we want to Sparta, but the caveat is this. That tool must not be interactive. That is to say, it must be able to run on its own without any interference from you as the user. I now have to use my down arrow and go underneath the host actions section of this Sparta.config, and here I have to copy and paste the following line from the lab, which I've already copied it. Now I'm going to paste it. That has to go there. I'm going to hit enter one time to give me a space. I'm now ready to save the changes to my Sparta.config file. To do so, I'm going to hit Control X. I'm going to answer Y to the question, and I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to close out this prompt. I'm going to go back over to Applications, Information Gathering, and I'm going to scroll on down and launch Sparta one more time. Now what I can do is I can go to File and I can go to Open, and I'm going to bring in that folder or that saved file from my previous scan, and there are the results. Now when I right click on any of these saved hosts, we see that the xprobe option is now available underneath the context menu when I right click. So Xprobe is exactly what it says it is. It is an OS fingerprinting tool that we can also use to assess victims on our network to find out what operating systems they are running. So in this video we learned that Sparta is a great tool for the pen testing arsenal. Not every tool works for the same for every situation, so we need options. Here we have the most sought after Nmap scripts automated to run for us. We have Nmap. We also have other tools at our disposal. All Nmap information in the terminal is now given to us using a GUI. Right-click on the different ports and services to see what tools are available under each context menu. We also used Hydra to crack the FTP username and password. So you see you have a lot of different options with Sparta. It's actually like a Swiss Army knife that we can use for an all-in-one situation. We got tabs, we can click on things, we can get results immediately. And for a pen tester, when you're sitting up there and you've got 1,200 or 2,000 client machines, this is really a great way to save time. That concludes this short video presentation on how we go about using Sparta to enumerate our clients on the network. If you have any questions or you have any concerns about the information covered in this video, please do not hesitate to reach out and contact your instructor, and I'll see you in my next video.